sin a chaithí fannacht in the ní. Tá agriachtaí men commerceidin héireann take le chiile chun tacú le caranis in seo sála agus snúcrain. Jen do chuidinis ag Ireland for Ukraine Stad.ie.
Whether training, playing, or just being a kid, choose footwear kids love from Nike and Adidas. And save with our buy one, get one half price offer on all kids' footwear. Only at Intersport Elveries. Ensure your child gets the right fit and the right shoe with our free footwear fitting service in every store. Go to elveries.ie now.
Drivers, be extra alert for motorcycles at and near intersections. Pay particular attention when overtaking, changing lanes, and making left and right-hand turns. From the Road Safety Authority, supported by Carol Nash Insurance.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, for an effortless finish to your day. New Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
And welcome back, Joe Molloy with you. So thanks again to Nathan Murphy and Shauna Cook for talking us through a famous 1-1 win for Ireland. That's what we're calling that in Gothenburg. Dan McDonnell is here in studio. Hello, Dan.
Joe, how are you?
And Richie McCormack, hello to you.
Howdy, Joe.
This is the news round coming at you later than usual. So more reaction from Gothenburg, as you might imagine. We'll hear from Vera Pauw and the team, and some more analysis to come as well. That's largely between 9 and 10 on the football show. It is a Champions League evening, which will be right across as well. And then after 8 o'clock, you'll have seen, I'm sure in the headlines, right across the day, we have seen something of an unprecedented international move against the Kinahan cartel. Daniel Kinahan's involvement in boxing once again under severe scrutiny. So Kieran Cunningham will join us, as will Conor Lally from the Irish Times. So that's on the way after 8 o'clock. We'll get into the news round, Richie, because I suspect you are starting with the game from Gothenburg. People have just been listening to the commentary. 1-1 draw.
Yeah, and Ireland were 11 minutes away from the most famous win in the history of the women's team. Vera Pauw's side drawing 1-1 with Sweden in Gothenburg this evening. Ireland took a shock lead through a deflected Katie McCabe strike just before half-time, but the Swedes levelled in the 79th minute through Kosovari Asllani. They're third in the group now are Ireland, but no win over Finland on September 1st will leave them on the brink of a playoff place. Away to Slovakia is the other game remaining for Vera Pauw and co.
Dan, you were watching the game. Sweden are an exceptional team. They moved the ball very well. They pretty much owned the ball. 16 attempts to 4. Ireland took a shock lead against the run of play. But to their credit, this was a performance about organisation. Bank of 5 and then 4 and 1. Heather Payne working very, very hard all evening on her own. It was about organisation and endeavour, and laws of physics dictate that any team can make it difficult for another team if they're well organised and working hard. And that was the Irish game plan, and they head off with a point.
Yeah, no, I thought it was decent. Like, you've seen them in the past in biggish games sort of go for the backs against the wall approach, but I thought they did it better tonight. I thought that they tried to be inventive. They tried to sort of execute breaks. I mean, even the equalising goal from Sweden, Ireland were actually sort of trying to press a small bit, and it was the sort of a pass to Leanne Kiernan who'd come on. So it wasn't as if they were sort of, let's defend the box and just bash the ball away. And then there was spells of the game where they maybe had to do that a bit. And even in the first couple of minutes, you're thinking, oh dear, this could be a long one in terms of how deep they were. But they actually, I just thought it was a lot better than previous attempts of that nature, but it was always going to be that type of performance. And I mean, I've seen the point be made already. I mean, they've made it now when they've been involved in a sort of momentous 1-1 draw. I mean, that is the national football result, and that is what we do. And you analyse the good and the bad, but I mean, they are in control of their own destiny. I think they have to go to Georgia now, which is a sort of formality, and it puts them really in control of their destiny, very much so, within that group. And they have that big week in September where everything's going to be decided. But you would hope. I mean, we've seen in the past they've had, they went away to Finland and it got that amazing result, and then at home to Slovakia they struggled, and they dropped 2 points there. So it's almost like they've got a bonus one of those points back now. And yeah, I mean, it's up to them. It's in their hands. But I thought there was a little bit more. I thought it was more coherent displayed than some previous ones where it was a little bit hit and hope. But it wasn't quite like that, I don't think, to see.
Yeah, that's fair. Rich, Finland had Georgia this evening?
Yeah, they did, and they beat them by 6-0. So that puts Finland second in the group, 2 points above Ireland. But as I say, that game on September 1st could well prove crucial. And indeed, the previous result against the Finns as well could went in Ireland's favour when everything else is totted up in September and the group is completed.
The 19s in action as well.
Yeah, they completed their European qualifying campaign with a win. A last gasp goal from Della Doherty helped them beat Greece by 1-0 in Ostrava. Ireland missed out in qualification, but they finished second in that group behind France, who qualified with a 100% record. Chelsea, meanwhile, need to conjure one of European football's great comebacks if they're to keep hold of the Champions League trophy tonight. They're in Spain, looking to overturn a 3-1 first leg deficit against Real Madrid. Minimal changes for the hosts, who have Eder Militao suspended. So Nacho comes into the defence for them. They line out with Thibaut Courtois in goal, a back four of Dani Carvajal, Nacho, David Alaba and Ferland Mendy. In midfield then, Casemiro, Luka Modric and Toni Kroos, with Vinicius Jr. and Federico Valverde in support of that man, Karim Benzema. For Chelsea, 4 changes from last week's first leg. I'll run you through the starting 11. Edouard Mendy starts in goal. It looks like, now this might be open for change when the game gets going, but it looks like a back four of Reece James, Thiago Silva, Tony Rudiger and Marcus Alonso. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Mateo Kovacic and N'Golo Kante are named in midfield, while Timo Werner and Mason Mount are in support of Kai Havertz. Elsewhere tonight, Villarreal taking a 1-0 lead into their second leg away to Bayern Munich, and both of those games kick off at 8 p.m.
I would suggest your interpretation that Chelsea team is spot on. If you think of the first leg, Chelsea were outnumbered in midfield. They had an extra centre-half that they didn't need against Benzema. Well, frankly, they needed about 8 more centre-halves against Benzema, but you take the point. So it was 2v3 in midfield. Madrid controlled the game. It was only midway through that Tuchel made the change and put an extra body in midfield, took a centre-half off. So I'm not surprised, based on that Loftus-Cheek, Kovacic and Kante are all there in midfield to fight it out with Casemiro, Modric and Kroos. So that's Tuchel learning the lesson from the first leg. It's a big ask, 3-1 at the Bernabeu.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen these sort of epic Champions League ties before where you feel like Chelsea just need to score early. I mean, they have that. I mean, there's no away goals or any of these factors to be thrown into it. It's just, just try and you're 2-0 down and that's it. You go for it. And that's sort of the mentality behind it. And yeah, I mean, Werner, a bit of form at the weekend. He is the type of player who can, on his day, be a bit of a pest. And he sort of gets chances. He just doesn't always take them, And I think they've only one way to approach it, really. I think they just have to start really positively, try and bring something from the weekend into it and just hope Madrid are rattled. That's all you can do.
Werner's pace keeps Madrid a touch honest as well, stretches them away from home. It's a nice option to have if they're going to be under pressure, which you suspect they are. So we'll keep you updated on that game, naturally, across the football show in particular. We are having the news round later than usual. It is brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day, because we had commentary from Gothenburg, a 1-1 draw for Ireland against Sweden. So they have really given their World Cup chances a big boost this evening. We'll be also talking about that on the football show. Meanwhile, a fairly extraordinary press conference in Dublin this morning, Richie.
Yeah, several Irish boxers have been implicated in Daniel Kinahan's sanctioning by the US government. Hupo Sports, a management company that lists Michael Conlon and Paddy Barnes among their clients, has also been sanctioned by the US Treasury. American banks and firms can no longer do business with Kinahan, who now has a bounty over his head in the States. Top-ranked chief Bob Arum said this evening that he'll seek to cut ties with MTK Global, the management and events company with a long-standing affiliation to Kinahan. Arum is co-promoter of Tyson Fury, the heavyweight world champion, to whom Kinahan is an advisor. He's due, of course, to fight Dillian White in the coming weeks.
Yeah, it was quite an extraordinary press conference in Dublin City Hall. We will talk about it later on with Conor Lally, the Irish Times security and crime editor, Kieran Cunningham as well, who has followed this story, reported on this story ad nauseum really over the last number of years. There were just so many eye-catching statements made by so many different participants. Drew Harris, the Garda Commissioner, said from now on the operation would be running low on money, friends and influence. Claire Cronin stood up, the US ambassador to Ireland, and announced a $5 million reward for information that leads to either the financial disruption of the Kinahan operation or to the arrest of Daniel Kinahan, Christopher Sr. or Jr. We had Greg Gatjanis stand up. He's from the US Treasury. He announced all the US sanctions, which are akin to what has happened to oligarchs over the last month or so. But he stood up, and towards the end of his contribution, he said, from a US perspective, the Kinahan cartel was now being prioritised by US law enforcement in the same way it pursued the Italian Camorra mafia group, the Yakuza mafia of Japan and the Russian mafia.
Yeah. And I mean, you I'm sure you'll talk about it with the lads. I know Kieran in particular has sort of been negotiating a lot of sort of online nonsense from people over the last period of time. But the sort of the online underworld sort of defenders or deniers of the origin or status of the the Kinahans within Ireland over a period of time, and like prominent people within boxing, from be it sort of promoters to fighters to podcasters and influencers who sort of put their fingers in the ear with a lot of this stuff. And we'll just have to see how it all plays out, of course, and I know there's a process that has to go through, but it does appear to be a sense today, and I could be wrong, of people just slowly but surely trying to distance themselves from previous comments here and maybe trying to sort of backtrack a small bit. But it's pretty clear. I mean, you see names, as Richie started his report there, Irish boxers, people's, listed on a document in a piece of paper, and that's something, there's a degree of permanence around that now.
Interesting timing as well, in that Tyson Fury has a world title fight Wembley Saturday week against Dillian White, and one suspects this will be a big talking point.
Will it?
In the build-up to that fight. Well,
it
looking
should be.
at the UK media, the angle they have taken today, understandably, everybody's parochial in their own,
of course,
vicinity. So the headline kind of theme was Tyson Fury urged to cut links with Kinahan. That was the theme they were going with. And then they were quoting the likes of Drew Harris and quoting the various participants today. So their angle was all about Fury Kinahan. So
the difficulty,
that's
Joe,
the way
with all
they're
that
treating it.
The difficulty with all that is, like, Kinahan's role in boxing has been so nebulous and so hard to actually tie down. Like, I'd imagine you'd be hard pressed to find his name printed on a contract anywhere. And yet he's been so influential in essentially brokering all these fights, especially for Tyson Fury, and also in lockstep with MTK and with Bob Arum. And yet I'd imagine, if you go through the different regulatory commissions in boxing, in American sports venues over there, I don't think you'd see his name appear anywhere. And he's obviously bolted up in his kind of legal Neverland over in the Emirates. So getting him out of there and actually tying him down to anything particular in boxing is going to be very difficult, and it gives people a lot of wiggle room. Like, you're gonna have to dance around this stuff, but there's a lot of obviously open kind of talk around the place about his involvement in the sport from low to high, and what he may or may not fund here at home as well. Like, but actually getting him on anything, it's going to be like, still, I know they say the net is closing in, but like, there's no extradition orders with the United Arab Emirates. He just has to stay there, keep his head down for the next while, and he can still plug away. And it's not as if he's been working overground for the past few years. He'll find a way to maneuver and still keep his hand in and imagine in all this kind of stuff and wait until a certain amount of it blows over. But until there's actually a pair of handcuffs around him and he's in a cell, I don't think there's much we can really hold on to in terms of hope for this kind of changing anytime soon.
Yeah, I suppose the only thing would be, though, like, you see, if the association of any description, I completely see where Richie's coming from, and that is, if that sort of there's a reticence now from any of the American promoters, like, that's to me is the significance. Even like Bob Arum going down his route, putting out that statement when he'd previously been quoted in a very different context. So I think there's obviously various scenarios people are looking at here, but I mean, this is still massively damaging. This is hugely, massively damaging. It may not be like some kind of ending in some way, in some satisfying way, but it feels like the beginning of one.
I think it's very significant. Yeah, we'll talk, like I said, after 8 o'clock in a bit more depth, but I think this is significant for sure. So the word had been, Richie, that Eric Ten Hag was actually interviewing Manchester United over the past week and looking for certain guarantees over, powers that he'll have. The word seems to be they've reached some kind of an agreement.
Yeah, he must be happy enough, because Manchester United have reached a verbal agreement to make Eric Ten Hag their new manager. The Athletic report tonight that the 52-year-old will leave Ajax for Old Trafford in the summer. Official confirmation, though, will have to wait until after the Dutch Cup final this Sunday, which pits Ajax against PSV Eindhoven. But Ten Hag is the next man in the hot seat at United.
We chatted to Simon Cooper last week, who gave us a really good insight into Ten Hag. If you want to check that out on any of our social channels, you get it on YouTube and Beyond podcast. So we had heard the Graham Rowntree news. The Limerick Leader reported this yesterday morning, and the man himself, well, it's been confirmed.
Yeah, confirmation. He says it's a great honour to be appointed the Munster head coach. The ex-England prop has signed a 2-year contract to replace the outgoing Johan van Graan. Rowntree, of course, has been Munster's forwards coach since 2019 and only signed a 2-year extension for that job back in January. Speaking on this week's Red 48 podcast, former Ireland back row Alan Quinlan was delighted with the appointment.
I'm delighted. Yeah. I think he's the right man. I think Graham brings continuity here, so he knows the players really well. So you can imagine if there was a new coach coming in, he's got to get to know everybody, their strengths, their weaknesses, their attitude, their desire, who he needs to kind of pick up a little bit, who he needs to put a bit more pressure on. And that takes time. You've got to get to know your players. And that's the intrigue of being a coach and really managing the whole environment. How do you get a happy camp, but how do you push players as well and change behaviours? Because let's be fair and blunt about it here. The behaviours have to change. There has to be some progress seen. We've seen progress at times under Johan and under Stephen Larkham, but too often we've kind of gone back to the frustration. And the fans have gone back to the frustration. They're the ones who voice their opinions as well.
We'll have Keith Earls on Wednesday Night Rugby tomorrow, so looking forward to chatting to him about all that and more besides. Meanwhile, the Gibson Park tackle on Marmion, it seems it's been cited. It's not the end of this yet.
No, it's not. Jameson Gibson Park facing an EPCR disciplinary committee tonight after being cited for that dangerous tackle on Kieran Marmion. The incident occurred during Friday's 5-point win over Connacht in the Heineken Champions Cup. At the time, it only warranted a yellow card, and indeed the Connacht head coach Andy Friend said to our own Dahi Boland after the game that he didn't think it was a red card challenge. Regardless, Jameson Gibson Park in danger of missing the second leg if he is found guilty.
Toulouse reduced to 14 men against Ulster at the weekend. There was a tackle on Ben Moxon when he was in the air, and further to the dangers of those kinds of tackles. News on Moxon's health.
Yeah, he was only making his European debut in that game, and he's going to miss the second leg of their Champions Cup tie with Toulouse back in Belfast. He suffered a concussion as a result of that challenge during last week's win in France and is following the return to play protocols this week. Hooker Tom Stewart has joined the Ulster injury list as well. He has a hamstring problem that he picked up in training prior to that game. Good news for Munster, though, to a degree tonight. It seems Antoine Dupont has been missing training for Toulouse, so could miss that game at Kingspan Stadium. Meanwhile, Ulster centre Stuart Moore has signed a new 3-year deal to retain his services until at least 2025.
And very lastly, because I know you have to run, you have to be elsewhere, you have to actually do a news bulletin. We're doing this later than usual.
You do this for the nation as well, Joe, yeah?
Yeah. Pep Guardiola got some news in his press conference today.
Yeah, absolutely caught in the hop. Manchester City captain Fernandinho caused a bit of confusion on the eve of their Champions League quarter-final second leg with Atletico Madrid. The midfielder said he intends to return to Brazil when his contract expires in the summer. The 36-year-old has since tweeted to say he'll talk about his future at the end of the season, but his initial comments caught his manager Pep Guardiola off guard.
And can I just ask, Fernandinho has just said he's leaving at the end of the season. When did you find out about that, and how disappointing is it that he's not staying on?
Sorry?
Fernandinho has said that he's leaving at the end of the season.
Oh. I didn't know it.
Is that news to you?
Simon, you gave me the news.
Sorry about that.
I didn't know it, so we will see what happens at the end of the season. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. So Fernandinho's, I said many times, so important for me, and it's coming the nice period, and we will see what happens. But anyway, I will talk to him.
He took it reasonably well.
Yeah, so you think Pep definitely didn't know? Or was it some agreement that they wouldn't, and there's someone in Man City going, we had a choreographed social media announcement, this has all been ruined and this isn't all totally signed off on yet or whatever.
I watched it and I thought he was
genuine
surprised.
He must have an idea it was going that way.
Certainly was surprised that Fernandinho had said it. So
yeah, I think that's more the surprise, because how do you respond to it? But I can't believe for a second that Fernandinho would go, I'll choose to sort of spring it this way. I don't buy that. No.
You're a cynic. With good reason.
Do you remember the time President Ferguson went mad at everyone for saying Ronaldo wasn't going to Madrid, and then you find out the deal was done, that he was leaving a season later, and you feign outrage or anger or something when the report comes out. Just not a cynic, Joe, just a realist.
Yeah. Ferguson did love a good dud press conference.
Absolutely.
There was the famous one when Keane went, where he was in great form, of a Friday morning, I think, and the press conference was 8:30. Any injury updates gave them, was joking with the lads, international break, glad not to see you again for a few weeks. Well, all right lads, wrap it up. They're all driving out the door, and news breaks, Roy Keane's left.
It's just one of the great sort of, it's a trade-off for going into this game that you just have to accept that people that you deal with are just going to lie to you, and like we all sort of participate in the lie in your own way at times. You might know what he's saying about that injury might not be true, but you sort of go along with it. It's just all the great lie. Yeah,
it sure is, Dan. That's
what we do.
That's our trade.
Yeah, stick with us for more honesty.
Richie McCormack has headed off to give a news bulletin to the nation. Dan McDonnell staying with us for the evening. They're about to get underway at the Bernabeu.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
We've got a rollover, so somebody missed Barry's call today, which means we have over €16,000 to play for this evening. The new amount is €16,417.07. So if you entered since 5 o'clock Monday, you remain in tomorrow's draw, but you have to know that